This is AgriCountry, brought to you in part by Alice Chalmers and your nearby Alice Chalmers dealer. And here's your host for AgriCountry, Ed Johnson.
Hi, everybody, and welcome into this week's edition of AgriCountry. Today, we're going to share with you how they identify 4-H and FFA steers in a number of counties across the state by freeze branding. We'll do that at the Delaware County Fairgrounds. Then we want to take you clear over to West Ohio to a poultry operation. The operation of Mel's Tucky, just outside of a little place called Frenchtown. And also today, we'll take you to Powers Hill, Ohio, and visit with Dave Killer. We'll be back with that freeze branding right after these messages. This week, certainly something different on AgriCountry as we take you to a 4-H and FFA freeze branding exhibition at the Delaware County Fairgrounds, Delaware, Ohio. And our guest on the broadcast, Ralph Jordan, who is the 4-H agent, and also Bob Urban, who is the county agent here in Delaware County. First, let's talk about how many 4-Hers in the program and the steer projects, Ralph?
We have about 80 4-H and FFA members in the county that are carrying the steer project.
How many years have you been freeze branding?
Oh gosh, I suppose we've been doing it 7 or 8 years now.
And with good results?
Yes, most all the brands turn out very well. Once in a while we miss one. Almost all the brands turn out very legible.
These brands will provide identification for the county fair, but I understand also, Ralph, for the state fair.
Yes, we freeze brand both county and state fair so we can identify the steers, and we also weigh the animals so we can have a rate of gain contest for our Delaware County Fair.
Bob, when did you pull out one of those irons? Bob Urban, our county agent, and I want to show you because we have found versus the hot method they use in the West, and we'll be showing later in this broadcast that for the animals it's almost harmless.
Well, it is a more humane method, I guess, and this is an alloy metal, and you put this in a tank with dry ice and methanol alcohol.
So that's what you have, Bob, in this little vat here?
Yes, in the styrofoam tank. You have to have a wire in the bottom so that the iron doesn't come in direct contact with the styrofoam to keep it cold.
How long does it take to get the irons cold?
Not very long. Ralph did that this morning, and I expect about 20 minutes.
And then once you use an iron on an animal, then how long will it take when you put it back in the vat before you can use the number again?
I would say, 3 to 4 minutes probably. 5 would be better. But if you're real pressed, you'd probably get by in 4 to maybe 3 minutes.
Do the brands come out to where they're really identifiable come county fair time?
Yes, especially on the black animals, as you well know, and the red. Now, when you get into the white animals, you get a little more of a problem. With the white animals, you leave it on longer. Hopefully, supposedly, you're supposed to get a bald brand. Now, really, all you're doing is changing the color of the hair, and we got to keep the irons on about a minute or so. It freezes that muscle and discolors the hair.
Ralph, you indicated again 8 years with this method. How many other counties in the state are using the freeze brand method?
There are a few other counties using it, and I think the ones that are using it are finding it very successful. I can't tell you exactly, but there are quite a few people now that's using it, and it seems to be a very humane way of doing it anymore.
Bob? We might mention that there is another way of using liquid nitrogen, and I guess it's a little faster. We have been successful with the dry ice and alcohol, so we've stayed with it, but the other is supposed to be faster, and you don't have to clip the hair. You do have to clip the hair off so that you got a smooth surface with the dry ice and alcohol.
With us on AgriCountry, truly one of the outstanding young men in Ohio when it comes to FFA activities, and also pleased to share with you one of our neighbors, Leroy Bellman, who is the North Central Vice President of the Ohio FFA and been showing steers at the county fair and state fair quite some time. How many years, Leroy?
I've been showing steers for about the last 9 years at the Ohio State Fair and the Delaware County Fair.
And this weekend for the freeze branding. Doesn't it really help, Leroy, to be handling the animals early in the winter?
If you've handled these calves through the winter and got them a little bit used to you, and so they're used to having people around them and had a radio playing in the barn possibly, it helps to where they get a little bit calmer and they're not as afraid of people as much, and they'll just settle down when they get in here and things will go a lot easier.
Not only do we freeze brand, but we also weigh every animal. Explain to our viewing friends the rate of gain contest here in the county, which is very popular in many counties.
First of all, you bring your calves in here in January, and we have them freeze branded and also weighed in at that time. And then when we come back in for the Delaware County Fair in September, we weigh them again for the show. And they subtract the weight of their finished weight at the show from the weight that they weighed in at branding, and they average out the weight per day of gain, and then that way they know, and it's usually about a 2.5, 2.6 per day of gain, and then they have a county fair winner for the highest rate of gain.
Will you be showing at both the state fair and the county fair this year, Leroy?
Possibly will. I'm hoping to get back down to the state fair again this year, but it all depends on how busy I am around August.
Leroy Billman, our guest member of the Ohio FFA officer team. Visiting now with our son Bart, and you've heard us talk about on the airways a number of times of his showing. Bart, I thought we might pass along to the listening friends. It's that time of year, people trying to break calves to lead and so forth. Share with the listening friends, viewing friends, how we do it at our farm.
Well, there was a doctor, one of the veterinarians down at Ohio State, that told us a method that he used and found that it worked the best. And what we do is we tie them up for 3 weeks and never untie them at all. We just water them and feed them where they're tied up. And after the first week, you just walk them around in the pen a little. And then the second week, you can walk them around inside the barn, just around the other calves. And then like the third and fourth week, you can take them outside. And usually by that time, they're really pretty tame, and that's all you have to do to break them. They stay tame for the rest of the year.
How often do you suggest a 4-H or FFA member lead that calf during the winter?
Well, during the winter, isn't as important as during the summer, but you should lead him enough that he does stay tame and will stay broken to lead for you, so you can work with him during the summer and don't have to break him again. What kind of halter do you recommend? The rope halter that we see here, or should they start right off with a show halter? Well, probably a rope halter. For one, you can't tie him up with a show halter. And sometimes with the little calf and a show halter, because the show halter has a chain that goes under the chin here where the rope is, and sometimes that chain will spook a small calf, and so it's usually best to start with the rope halter. Each week on AgriCountry, we try to take you to a different family farm operation somewhere in Ohio. This week, we're clear over in the western side of the state. We're in Darke County, about 3 miles northwest out of Versailles, at the farm operation of Melvin and Marianne Stuckey and with their family. You know that we're in a poultry house. You can certainly see that and hear that. But we're also going to take you out to their beef operation. We'll talk with Mark out there. And we're also going to talk with Sharon and Brenda when we get into where they collect all the eggs. Melvin, how many laying hens are we talking about in this operation?
We're talking about 100,000 laying hens in 2 houses.
We're talking about a lot of feed, aren't we?
We're talking about 7 ton of processed feed per day.
When we came in, one could easily spot it was completely automated. Explain to our viewing friends how it operates.
The 2 houses that we have here are completely automated. That is, the feed, water, ventilation, and everything is on time clocks and the type of equipment that takes to keep everything going in the proper sequence. And it requires 2 people to gather the eggs, which for a total of about 14 hours of labor per day.
Would look like a very sophisticated operation. Mechanically, do you have much of a problem with it?
We have just minor problems which would occur when you have the large amount of motors and micro switches and equipment involved in this operation.
The watering is all automated as well?
The water is automated, requires very little maintenance.
How do you get the eggs from here in the laying house over to the collection room?
The eggs are taken by a 12-inch belt that runs in front of all the de-escalators. That is the equipment that takes the eggs from the actual belt in front of the layers. They go down a decline to the 12-inch belt, and that 12-inch belt takes them all into the packing room.
Let's go back to feeding for a moment. How many times do you feed a day?
The birds are fed approximately 3 times a day. In our particular case, we let the birds have all the feed they will take per day. We can control the nutrients by the type of mixture that we give them.
There's another barn that you're adding on to this one. Where will that put you in the total operation?
Well, this particular building that we are in is a 40,000 unit, and in order to complete our present operation, we would increase it up to 60,000, which would make it the same as the other building, first building.
Now, but we have some poultry operations where there is a contract with a feed company quite often, and we find that the fellow who is running the operation is almost considered just as a manager. I would take that this is not that kind of an arrangement.
This is a completely independent operation. We buy our feed as we want to, and we sell our eggs to different processors, and we're completely independent. We have no contracts involved in this operation.
Let's talk about building investment for a 100,000 laying operation, just ballpark.
The buildings and equipment in an operation on this scale will cost somewhere in the neighborhood of $5 to $6 a bird, and a total investment in capital for an operation like this is somewhere in the neighborhood of $8 to $10 per bird.
But just like anything else in agriculture these days, the margins are awfully slim. In fact, oftentimes the margin is not there.
That's correct. We have to do a very efficient job and hope to carry a very small margin on our total gross.
Every family farm in Ohio, well, nearly every family farm, the lady plays a very, very important role. And that's certainly the case here at the operation of Mel and Mary Ann Stuckey. Mary Ann, what was the first thing that you did when you came out here this morning?
Well, I guess the first thing I did this morning was start the eggs up and shut everything off, and then I got the supplies out, so when the lady came in to pack eggs, everything was ready to go. And then I'd come out into the house itself and make sure everything was running okay.
It just would seem that the lady would be more involved with the egg side of the operation. How many dozen are we talking about a day? Or total eggs, however you'd like to put it.
Probably make a total of eggs because I'm more familiar with that. About 75,000 a day.
What's the problem, if there are any problems, in dealing with that many eggs? Are soft shells a problem? Are dirty eggs a problem?
Yes, they cause a lot of soft shell egg will break and maybe cause a lot of dirty eggs, which we pull out and run through a washer ourselves. Sometimes maybe a belt will flip up, and we check. That's what we check down the rows for.
You any idea how many feet of conveyor belt might be in this operation?
Oh my! You're asking
me. It looked
like
to me like it'd be thousands of feet of it.
Yeah, well, it'd be 400, 800 feet of belt times. Gosh, how many times?
Well, we're talking
I haven't figured that
a
out.
lot of belt.
Right.
How many times a day do you collect the eggs on those conveyor belts?
Once in the morning and once in the afternoon.
How many eggs do you like to have per 100 layers?
Per 100 layers? Oh, we'd like to have 85.
85% is what you aim for.
Right, at peak.
What would this house be doing now?
This here house probably 70.
How long can you keep a hen in production?
We keep them a year.
What age do you put them in?
18, 19 weeks old.
How do you spot if an old hen's not performing like she should be performing?
I guess I don't. We don't check them.
There's no way that you would really know individually. You just have to look at percentages.
That's right.
What do you find challenging about being the lady of this operation?
It's the know-how of how to make sure everything's keeping it going.
And now we want to take you from here in the land house and go over into the packing room where we're going to visit with Brenda and Sharon. Brenda, what all do you get involved in here in the packing room?
Well, I go through the eggs and take out checks and dirty eggs. And
what do you call a check?
It's a egg that has the shells are broke, but not all the way broken through.
Would you take them off of the line if that was the case?
Yeah.
What do you do with those eggs that you can't ship on?
Well, sometimes we eat them, and if they're bad enough, we throw them away.
Are you involved out here every day or not?
They're not every day.
School kind of gets in the road.
Yeah.
The other young lady that's involved in this operation is Sharon. Now, Sharon, when we take a look at these eggs and the eggs that are being packaged, where do they go from here?
They go to the egg processors, and from there they get washed and then they get graded.
So the eggs that you ship out of here, you'll put them in the cases, but then that's the last time that you worry about them.
Yeah, we pack them up on the skids, and then they take them along, and that's the last we see of them.
Sharon Mother said out in the laying house, so we're talking about 75,000 eggs a day. What would be the average price per dozen when the eggs leave the farm here?
Right now it's around 50 or 60 cents a dozen.
What are some of the things that you get involved with daily here in the operation?
Well, right now, if I'm not packing eggs, I go in the egg room and make sure there's enough flats and everything out, and get the skids, get all the supplies ready for someone that is packing. That, and keep like the eggs, the few eggs that we do wash, the dirty eggs, I keep them, pack them by hand. Other than that, I just keep the supplies and stuff ahead.
Well, Sharon, nice to be here with you. And Brenda, nice to be with you, and good luck the rest of this year at the Versailles High School. And we want to take you now out to another phase of this operation. We're going to go out to the feedlot and talk with Mark. Economics out on the farm, 1981, 1982, has caused a lot of people to think more about diversification. And goodness knows, here at the Stuckey operation, that is the case. How many head do you have on feed now?
It's right around 500.
Where do you get your calves?
We have a buyer that buys them down in Virginia, down that southeastern United States.
What kind of weight do you like to put the calves in at?
400 to 800 pounds.
Some of the feedlots in Ohio, Mark, will buy all feeder calves, or some will buy all yearlings. How does it happen that you like to go with a mixture?
Well, we feel that selling them over getting different weights, you can sell them more over a period of time and maybe get a little better price, or average out your price that you get a little better.
Now, do the buyers usually come right here to the feedlot, or will you take them to some of the auctions?
They usually come out here and look at them, and we get a couple different buyers out here. When we get ready to sell a load, a couple of them come out here and give us a bid, and whoever gives the best one, I guess, usually ends up getting her.
How many head would you like to market per week if you're really right on schedule?
Well, I suppose we try to maybe get a semi-load out every week when we get the majority of them ready.
What do you like to feed the cattle?
Well, right here we feed them silage and little crack-shelled corn and a little bit of haylage. We get some fat cattle or bigger cattle over the other farm. We just feed crack-shelled corn and grind some ear corn for the fatter cattle to finish out a little bit faster.
Power Show Ohio, certainly a success story in Ohio, and our guest on AgriCountry, the manager of Power Show Ohio, Dave Kaler. Dave, nice to have you with us. How far do we go back to the first Power Show?
1971, 12 years ago, Ed.
How many exhibitors?
We had 54 exhibitors and about 17,000 people.
And today, as we look at the 82 Power Show, how many exhibitors and how many people would you anticipate?
This year we had 262 exhibitors representing about 475 firms, and in attendance I would hope to see around 60,000 people.
And what would be the more interesting things, Dave, that people might see at a Power Show?
We publicize the show in 4 areas: agricultural equipment, lawn and garden equipment, construction equipment, and recreational vehicles, and we feel we've got them all. 4-wheel drive tractors to helicopters.
And I think all walks of life come to the show.
That's correct. By promoting those 4 areas, really anybody's a prospect for some of the equipment that we've got on display.
And I see a lot of families coming always.
That's the way we want it.
Dave, you added for the first time the Coliseum. You just simply needed more space, I presume?
That is correct. We had run for approximately 3 years with a waiting list, and a waiting list is good. That makes your show sound. But we decided to attempt to put on the Coliseum, and time will tell, but we think it's the way to go.
And you also, I note, try to get as many different kind of exhibitors here as well.
That's correct. We like to put variety in the show, and we also like to mix the different various lines up in the building, so it maintains good traffic flow through the buildings.
And a comment about the other programs that go on, educational programs, while people are watching the show.
Yes, we feel that some of the ladies attending the show would probably want to, in the afternoon, sit down and watch a program, so we provide 3 programs for them each day, and then the Ohio State University Extension Service provides a movie room where they show programs each day.
Have you set the dates for the 1983 Power Show Ohio?
Yes, they are set. That would be January 29 and 30, 1983.
Who puts on or who sponsors, Dave, Power Show Ohio?
All the farm equipment, the construction equipment, and lawn and garden dealers in Ohio. The show is sponsored by the Farm and Power Equipment Dealers Association.
What do you think has caused the enthusiasm from that group? Because we've certainly seen that grow, despite the fact that the economics out there right now certainly are not the best.
No, they're not, but Ed, they're going to improve. I know it. I believe the interest in the show came about these fellows, these farmers, they get a little winter fever. They need a place to go. We feel with a January show, it gives the farmers a chance to get out and see what's new for 1982.
Any idea what kind of dollar value we might be talking about of equipment on display in the 4 big buildings?
Oh, Ed, I have no idea. I would surmise maybe $8 to $12 million worth of equipment. That's strictly a guess on my part.
Our guest here at the ABN Network van at Power Show Ohio 1982, the Power Show manager, Dave Kaler. Good to have you with us today for AgriCountry. Next week we'll begin the show with a visit with Wayne Rickenbacker about ridge-tilled farming. Also next week we're going to take you clear over to West Ohio, southern Darke County, with the hog operation of Lowell Unger. And also next week, Kevin Keller of our staff visits with Dean Cotman of the College of Agriculture about a recent grant.
Thank you for joining us today for AgriCountry with Ed Johnson, brought to you in part by Alice Chalmers and your local Alice Chalmers dealer. AgriCountry recognizes farm families who produce daily our abundant food supply.